Welcome back to another video, and today we got our full 2025-26 NBA season predictions. We did this video last year, and in this video we're going to be predicting the entire Eastern Conference standings, the entire Western Conference standings, giving a breakdown of all 30 teams in the league, and then at the end, based on our predictions, we're going to put them into a playoff bracket and make our preseason NBA champion picks, make our preseason playoff predictions. It's going to be a very fun video. It's going to be a long one, but we got a lot to talk about. There's a lot of changes going on in the offseason, and we're just going to be breaking down every single team. So real quick, before we get started, make sure you subscribe if you're new. We do NBA content, obviously, college football every Tuesday, NFL every Wednesday. College basketball content will be coming weekly. That's going to start right around the corner, and then MLB content as well. So if any of that interests you, make sure you go down there, subscribe. But let's go ahead and get right on into the Eastern Conference. So as you can see, we're going to start out with the team at the top, the team that I have predicted as the number one seed to finish as the number one seed this season in the East. And as you can see, I don't really have a team over 60 wins. I also don't have a lot of faith in this conference. I only have I guess I only have 6 teams above 500. I have 1 team at 500. And the rest below. The East is pretty weak this year, but starting out at the top, I think it's going to be the Cavs again. I don't like picking the same team that it was last year, but I find it hard to believe that it's not the Cavs. You look at the starting lineup of Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. Evan Mobley just won DPOI. Donovan Mitchell was an MVP candidate last year. Darius Garland missed some time in the playoffs, which kind of hurt their ceiling, but they also ran into the Pacers team, who were just ridiculous. They brought in Lonzo Ball. I know they lost Ty Jerome, but they still got a lot of depth on this team. They are going to be without Max Strus for a little bit. I think he's injured, but he'll come back soon. I think the Cavs will be just fine. Maybe they don't start out as hot as they did last year, because last year they started out 15-0. It was ridiculous. But I do think they will be the 1 seed yet again. But I do think the 2 seed will be right there with them. And that's going to be the New York Knicks. I have the Knicks winning 56 games. I really like bringing in Mike Brown to be the head coach of this team. And I like what they've done. They brought in Jordan Clarkson to be a really nice scorer off the bench for them. So hopefully that works out. Josh Hart's also, it looks like, going to be coming off the bench. And the starting lineup, obviously, Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Cat, and Mitchell Robinson is actually going to be starting at center. So they got 2 big men. I think that might help them a little bit now with Cat not running the 5. Maybe helps their defense out a little bit, because that was kind of the downside for them last season. But I think this offense is probably going to be top 3 in the league. It is just a really good roster all the way top to bottom. At the 3 seed, this is a team I'm very excited about coming into the season. I was excited about them last year. They kind of got unlucky with all their injuries. But I'm going to go with the Magic. You see the new logo? I actually kind of like it. It kind of has grown on me, but the Magic are going to be fully healthy, and they also bring in Desmond Bane. They, traded a whole lot of picks for him to bring him in, but he is kind of what they needed. They needed a shooter. They needed a guy who could score the ball efficiently, and he is going to be that. Jalen Suggs is going to be back from injury. Paolo and Franz are going to be fully healthy. Hopefully Wendell Carter can look better this season. Mo Wagner as well is going to be healthy at some point this season, hopefully. They still got a bunch. They brought in Tyus Jones off the bench. I like that addition. They drafted Jace Richardson. He could be interesting. Tristan Da Silva, Jonathan Isaac. It's a very deep team, and I think this Magic team is once again going to be probably the second best defense in the league behind the Thunder. So I think the Magic are, almost a guarantee to be third in the East at least. I don't know if I want to say that. But you know what I mean? I feel like a lot of people are saying the East is a 2-team race. I'd almost throw the Magic in there. I know I have them quite a bit away from the Knicks, but I think the Magic could definitely be considered for that tier. The other team that I could see considered is the Atlanta Hawks, and a lot of you are going to say, whoa, the Hawks, they've been a play-in team for quite a while. But if you haven't been keeping up with what the Hawks have been doing, well, first of all, last season they were very beat up, very injured. They bring in Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They bring in Kristaps Porzingis. That's a huge addition. They drafted Asa Newell. I think that's going to help them off the bench. Luke Kennard comes in. This is a really good team. Not to mention they have Dyson Daniels, who was the most improved player last year. They have Jalen Johnson going to be fully healthy now. Trae Young is obviously still there, and Zachary Risasher should hopefully continue to develop, and hopefully he can get better. They have Onyeka Okongwu off the bench still as well. This is a very deep team, and we've seen a Trae Young-led team get to the conference finals before. So I think if it all goes right for them, their ceiling is probably the Eastern Conference Finals, especially with it being such a weak conference. At the 5 seed, I'm going to go ahead and take the Pistons. They're an interesting team. They were the surprise team last year. They won, what was it? They lost like 20-plus games in a row the previous season, and then last season they get into the playoffs as the 6 seed, and they were pretty good in the playoffs as well. They ended up losing in the first round, but, I mean, they lost to, who is it, the Knicks? I think they lost to the Knicks in the first round in 7, I want to say. Sounds about right. But it's really going to come down to how good is Jaden Ivey when he comes back. I believe he's injured right now. Will he get the extension he's looking for? Will he get traded? That's going to be interesting to watch. They did lose a lot of depth. They lost Tim Hardaway Jr., some other guys as well. Malik Beasley, we don't really know what's going on with him, with his whole situation. But I think Cade Cunningham is going to be a legitimate MVP candidate this season. I don't think that's crazy to say. I think he's on that trajectory, and I think he could probably finish top 5 in MVP voting when it's all said and done this year. Asar Thompson, I'm betting on taking a big leap, a big step forward. Ron Holland as well could definitely be a player to take a big step. They brought in Duncan Robinson. They drafted Chaz Lanier from Tennessee. I think he could be interesting. Tolu Smith they drafted as well. He was pretty good in college. They got a lot of guys I'm interested in. They brought in Karis LeVert. I think he could be solid. So they did lose a lot of their depth, but I feel like they replaced it pretty well, and I feel like the people aren't really respecting that as much because a lot of people are just mentioning they lost a lot of their depth, but I feel like they replaced it pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and give them the 5 seed in the East. The 6 seed, I'm going to put the Bucks. I don't feel great about it. The Bucks could finish anywhere from 3 to 10. Like, we really have no idea what the Bucks are going to do this season. It is really just Giannis and everybody else. They did bring in Miles Turner, but they lose Damian Lillard. Their guard play just isn't that great. I mean, Kevin Porter Jr., Gary Trent at this point, it's not great. Cole Anthony, their third best player, I mean, besides Giannis and Miles Turner, Bobby Portis coming off the bench. Do you want to give that title to Kyle Kuzma? I don't know if I would. He was so bad last season. It's just not a great team besides Giannis and Miles Turner. I mean, we've seen teams like this go far. LeBron in his early years with the Cavs, he carried them all the way to the finals. Maybe Giannis is capable of doing that, but I wouldn't put it past. If the Bucks are like start out the season struggling, start out like 8-15, something like that, 8-10 even. Like, if they start out their first 20 games below 500, could we see a Giannis trade? We saw Luka get traded mid-season last year, so could we see a Giannis trade? I wouldn't put it past Giannis to request one, so it's going to be very interesting. It's a, huge situation to monitor. We're going to continue to update you on that. But the Bucks, really one of the biggest wild cards. Speaking of wild cards, the team I have ranked at 7 right now, the 7 seed, I'm predicting. The 76ers, I have no idea what to do with this team, right? I mean, you look at the roster on paper, it's good. Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, top NBA draft pick this season. He's hopefully going to be good for them. Kelly Oubre, Paul George, Joel Embiid. That's what it's looking like is going to be the starting lineup. They bring in, they got Kyle Lowry off the bench. They got Quentin Grimes off the bench. They got Jared McCain. He's going to be healthy at some point. They still have Andre Drummond there. I mean, they have some talent. They have some talent on this team for sure. The question is obviously how many games will Joel Embiid play? How good is Paul George at this point in his career? Will Maxey be able to stay healthy? I would assume Maxey can stay healthy. I don't want to jinx anything, but he was obviously hurt most of last season. Hopefully VJ Edgecombe and Jared McCain could be an exciting, 2 young guys in the backcourt. This is kind of a wait to see what to do if you're the 76ers, because I really don't know what they're going to do. It's all going to depend on how many games Joel Embiid plays. If he plays a lot, if he plays up to 50, 55, 60 games, which, I mean, don't even know if he'll get to that. But if he does, the 76ers could potentially be a top 6 seed in the East, but if he does end up missing most of the season again, I don't really know what the ceiling is on this team. The team I have at number 8, it's going to be weird to see this team so low, but I have the Boston Celtics. Obviously, they're going to be without Tatum for, I thought would be most of the year, but Tatum's making it sound like he wants to return at some point in the regular season. I'm not sure if he will. I mean, if he does, it'll have to be at the end, close towards March, April, which I wouldn't put it past him. Everything that's coming out about his injury, it sounds good, but we really just haven't seen this quick of a turnaround from an injury like that ever. So we'll see what happens with Tatum. They obviously lose Drew Holiday to the Trailblazers. They lose Porzingis to the Hawks. They lose Al Horford to the Warriors. Like, they lost a lot on this team. It's just not very deep anymore. They're rocking with a starting lineup of Derek White, Anthony Simons, which I think could be an interesting addition, but I don't feel great about it. They have Peyton Pritchard off the bench as well. Jaylen Brown is going to be their guy, I guess. Which, it's not bad. I think the Celtics will be fine. I think they'll be able to. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish above 500, with the amount of threes they shoot and how good of a coach Joe Mazzulla really is. But, you look at the roster on paper, you could argue they should be lower than this. I'm just going to trust the coaching and the amount of threes that they shoot and attempt, that they'll be able to win some games. Maybe they shouldn't. But that's kind of where I'm standing at with the Celtics. I do think they'll be a play-in team still, though. Number 9, I'm going to have the Raptors. You look at this Raptors team on paper, it sounds really, really good. I saw this depth chart, and I was like, whoa, hold on, am I too low on the Raptors? Listen to the starting lineup. Emmanuel Quickley, R.J. Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl. That sounds like a pretty good 1 to 5. Off the bench, they have Grady Dick, Ochai Agbaji, Colin Murray Boyles is a guy that they seem to be pretty excited about. Jacoby Walter they brought in. They got some interesting young pieces off the bench. The starting lineup looks solid on paper, but if you really think about it, how is this team going to work? How are they going to, where's the shooting on this team? I know it's kind of boring to just complain about 3-point shooting, but there's a reason I have the Celtics ranked ahead of them. I just don't know where the shooting comes from on this team. A lot of these guys kind of do the same thing offensively, so I'm not really sure how this Raptors team will fit with each other. But on paper, they have a lot of talent, so we'll see if they can end up finishing higher than this. And then at the 10 seed, I'm going to have the Heat. They just always find a way to get in the play-in. They're going to be without Tyler Hero for what sounds like the first 15-ish games. Without him, I mean, they brought in Norman Powell to kind of, bring some offense, so maybe he can, hold on, take care of the team. You get what I'm trying to say? Well, Tyler Hero is out. Hopefully he can carry a little bit of that load. Andrew Wiggins still there. Bam Adebayo still there. Kel'el Ware, hopefully he can step it up. I think he'll be pretty solid. Everything that's coming out about him sounds pretty good. Kasparis Yakachonis they drafted, and I like that draft pick, but I don't know. Without Tyler Hero in here, I think they're going to struggle coming out the gate, but I think they will end up finishing in the play-in. The 11th seed, I'm going to have the Pacers, the team that made the NBA Finals out of the East. I have missing the play-in entirely. I think Tyrese Halliburton, is a huge part of this team. Obviously, he's really the only reason they were able to make the run they did. And I want to remind you, they took the Thunder to 7 games. If Tyrese Halliburton doesn't tear his Achilles in that Game 7, the Pacers very well could be NBA champions. I don't think that's crazy to say. With the way he started out the game, he had 4 threes in the first 3 minutes, or maybe 3 threes. Still, I mean, he was lights out that entire playoff run. So losing him is obviously going to hurt. So I have them taking quite a big fall. You look at the roster, Andrew Nembhard. I don't know if I love him being the primary ball handler as well as the guy who's going to run up and down the court, for full court defense, press. So I don't know if I love that. Benedict Mathurin is solid. Aaron Nesmith. All these guys are solid. But without Tyrese Halliburton, it just, I love these guys for a team, but all 3 of those guys in the starting lineup, you know what I'm saying? And then they got Siakam as well. He's probably going to be the number 1 guy. They still got TJ McConnell off the bench, Obi Toppin off the bench, but I don't know. Maybe I should give Rick Carlisle the benefit of the doubt just because he is such a good head coach, but I just don't see them getting in the play-in. Maybe they could sneak into like as a 9-10 seed if the Raptors kind of fall off, or if the Heat end up trading Tyler Hero or Bam Adebayo or someone. Maybe if the Celtics make a trade, deal like Derek White or something. But I don't know. I don't see the Pacers getting in at this point with no Halliburton. Now, obviously, if Halliburton's here, they probably finish as the 3 or 4 seed, maybe even higher. I'm going to have 12, the Chicago Bulls. This is my favorite team, so it's unfortunate to see them this low. But I got to be realistic. This roster just isn't cutting it, and I think the Bulls are probably going to be sellers at the deadline. Hopefully they can get someone to take Vucevic. It feels like he's been on the trade block during the deadline, all of his rumors. It feels like he's been about to be traded for the past 3 years, and they just keep holding on to him. So I don't know what's going on there. Hopefully they can get rid of him. Kobe White as well could get dealt. I would assume I've heard could get dealt. Patrick Williams could get dealt. So really the whole team is just kind of on the trade block. Noah Essengay, we'll see if he turns into anything. They're their first-round pick this season. Josh Giddey, they just re-signed, so hopefully he can stay. I actually wouldn't mind if he'd end up staying. And Matas Buzelis, I'm getting very excited about. I think he could be a very good player in the future, but I'm interested to see his development. I think he could be a candidate for most improved player this season. But yeah, there's not much else to get excited about. I think this Bulls team is likely going to be sellers at the deadline. At the 13 seed, I have the Hornets. Now, last season I predicted the Hornets to make the play-in. That was a pretty bad miss. The Hornets were nowhere near that. Now, they were dealing with a lot of injuries all season. LaMelo Ball obviously missed a lot of time. Brandon Miller missed a lot of time. Those two guys are back. They bring in Con Knipple in the NBA draft. That could be exciting. They have Miles Bridges. They have guys off the bench like Colin Sexton, Grant Williams, Ryan Kalkbrenner could be interesting. So I'm interested to see what they do with their center position. They also have Diabate. I don't know who's going to end up being the starter long term. They have some interesting pieces, but I just don't know if they'll be able to stay healthy, and I kind of am ranking them as low just because I'm a little bit salty. They were my bold prediction, and they just really did not come through for me. So we'll end up seeing with the Hornets if they can stay healthy. I think they could maybe finish higher than this, but I don't know if I see a play-in team in the cards for them. 14 is going to be the Wizards. I have them winning 22 games. I don't think they're going to be very good. They have a lot of young guys that you could maybe get excited about, but honestly, Trey Johnson, Bub Carrington, Bilal Coulibaly, like Cam Whitmore, I guess they brought in. That could be interesting. They have CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton on the roster for some reason. I could see both those guys getting traded at the deadline. And Alex Sarr, hopefully, can take another step forward, but this defense is going to be one of the worst in the league. I don't think this Wizards team is going to be very, very good at all. But somehow there's a team below them, and it's going to be the Brooklyn Nets. Now, Cam Thomas and Michael Porter probably going to put up pretty big numbers. Probably going to inflate their points per game just a little bit with these two guys being the only two guys who can really score on this team. I mean, they have Nick Claxton still, I guess. Igor Demon could be interesting. Hopefully he'll be pretty solid there. Rookie out of BYU, but I don't know. I'm not too high on this Nets team. I don't think they're going to win a lot of games this season. You're starting Terrence Mann. It's just a really bad roster, to be fair. But let's go ahead and move on to the West, because there's a lot of teams that I think could be very, very good and a lot of interesting storylines here in the West. So let's start at the top. I think this is fair to say the Thunder. I'm going 67-15. People are saying they could potentially have the best season of all time. I don't think that's crazy to say. Last season they won 68 games. I have them winning 67 this year. Maybe you could argue. You could definitely make the argument. They were without Chet Holmgren for a bunch of last season. They were without Hartenstein for a lot of time. They were without Caruso for a lot of time. And they still won 68 games. So if all those guys stay healthy, they could potentially win 70 plus. I can't predict them winning that many games. I feel like, 67-15 is such a high, record. I know their over/under win total is like 62.5. That's just a crazy high line. But honestly, I'd probably bet the over if I was going to bet anything. But they won the NBA Finals for a reason last year. We know who's all on this team. They brought everyone back. They're going to be a top 5 offense, top 5 defense once again. Number 2 is where it gets interesting. I considered these next 4 teams for 2 through 5. I considered a bunch of these teams, but I ended up going with the Denver Nuggets. I think this is the season where they finally, get up towards 50, 55, somewhere in that range, total wins. They bring in Jonas Valanciunas off the bench. I love that addition. They bring in Tim Hardaway Jr. off the bench. They bring Bruce Brown back. That's a huge addition. Like this team is scary. Obviously last season it was the depth problem. Oh, not to mention they brought in Cam Johnson. Like that is a huge addition. They had so much problems with their depth last season, and now Jonas Valanciunas is maybe the best backup center in the league. Like I don't think that's crazy to say. And obviously you still got the same 4 guys in the starting lineup: Jamal Murray, Christian Braun, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic. But this team is scary. Now that they have the depth, now that they have the backup centers, so when Jokic does sit, they're not going to be as, historically bad as they were. Because Jokic on the court was the best offense in the league, and off the court, they were like the worst offense in the league. It was a crazy turnaround without Jokic. But now, without him, they have a lot of depth to be able to hang. So I really like this Nuggets team this year. I think they could potentially challenge the Thunder in the playoffs, but we will get there. Number 3 seed, very interesting. You see how close these records I have. I have the Timberwolves as the number 3 seed. I think they win 50 plus. I just really like the fact that Anthony Edwards, it feels like, has gotten better every season. It feels like he develops a new part of his game every season. Early in his career, he wasn't very good at shooting the 3 ball, and now all of a sudden he's shooting the most in the league and making the most in the league. He was ridiculous from 3-point land last season, and he's only going to get better. Now I've heard he's trying to get a post. Like, he just adds new things to his game every season. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's up there for MVP. You got the obvious guys, SGA, Jokic, but I think him and, Cade Cunningham might end up being 3 and 4. Maybe you could throw Luka in there. Or, I don't know, Giannis maybe. I don't know how good the Bucks will be. But, I could really see Anthony Edwards finishing, 3rd in MVP voting. I don't think that's out of the cards whatsoever. I think this Timberwolves team, they were ranked, I want to say 6th in defense last year. I could see them getting back into the top 5, top 4. I'm a little worried with the guard play. I don't know how good Mike Conley will be. He's getting a little up there in age. But they have Dante DiVincenzo. They have Rob Dillingham. They have Terrence Shannon Jr. They somehow brought back Naz Reid. They still have Jaden McDaniels. They still have Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert. A lot of these guys are coming back from last season. I think their guards off the bench will get better. Hopefully Rob Dillingham can kind of step into that role, because I think that's what they're counting on. And if he does, this team's going to be very scary. The Rockets at the 4 seed. If you told me to rank the Rockets before the Fred VanVleet injury, I may have told you they would finish as the 2 seed. At very least, I would have said 3 seed. Losing Fred VanVleet does hurt. He's out for the season. I believe he tore his ACL, so prayers up to him. But, yeah, it is a tough loss. But obviously I'm still very excited about this team, right? I mean, they were the 2 seed in the West last year, and they brought in Kevin Durant. Just that on that alone, I think Amen Thompson is arguably maybe the best defender in the league. That's not a, Wembanyama or Evan Mobley, not a big man. He is so versatile. He can really guard 1 through 5. Hopefully Reed Shepherd can take a step forward, kind of similar with the Timberwolves situation, and Mike Conley. You're betting on a lot of these young guards to take steps forward. Jabari Smith Jr. as well. Hopefully he can take a step forward. But obviously bringing in Kevin Durant is huge here. They have Sengun, who I think, watching him play overseas in the EuroLeague or whatever it's called, he looked even better. I think he potentially is going to take another step forward, which is crazy because he was so good. I want to say he was all NBA last season. He was ridiculous. Steven Adams off the bench. They ran a lot of 2 center sets in the playoffs, so we could probably see that again. They also have Clint Capella in there. This Rockets team is very deep, very good defensively, and they have Kevin Durant now. I think this Rockets team is going to win 50-plus games. At the 5 seed, this team is interesting. They got a lot of ranges here, but I'm going to go with the Clippers. You look at this Clippers team, there's a lot that it comes down to. One, they have maybe the most depth in the league. I think that I would probably give it to them. They legitimately have 11 guys that I would trust in my lineup at any point. The problem is Kawhi Leonard, his whole situation with the under the table paying all that. It's weird. We're gonna see what happens. I've heard his contract may get voided. He may end up being a free agent. Like, that would be crazy. I don't know if he'll get suspended. I don't really know what's going on. We haven't really heard much news about it. But just looking at this lineup, like, let me list these guys they have: James Harden, Bradley Beal, Kawhi Leonard, John Collins, Zubac. That's a starting lineup. Now off the bench, they bring in Chris Paul, Chris Dunn still there. Bogdanovich comes in. Batum still there. Brook Lopez comes in. And they have Derrick Jones Jr. still there as well. This team is going to be scary. Last season, what were they? The 4 seed, 5 seed? Like, they were so good last season. And honestly, I think a lot of that has to do with James Harden. He just raises the floor of this team. I don't know about the ceiling because he tends to... he's known for not doing well in the playoffs and in closeout games, but he had some good games in the playoffs last year. I know he didn't play great in the last game, but I think the Clippers could very well be upwards of a, like I said, I think they could potentially finish as the 2 seed. I wouldn't be shocked if Kawhi Leonard plays. Now, obviously, they are the oldest team in the league, either them or the Warriors, I want to say, but if they could stay healthy, they could be a dangerous team in the playoffs. Speaking of the Warriors, I'm going to have them as a 6 seed. I know a lot of you may be surprised I don't have the Lakers yet, but I like this Warriors team. I really like what they've done in the offseason. They bring in Al Horford. They bring in DeAnthony Melton. They re-signed Jonathan Kuminga. I don't know if he'll end up being there, but let me remind you, when they brought in Jimmy Butler, they were 23-7 with him in the lineup. This is... this can't go unnoticed. Like, they were so good bringing him in. I think this Warriors team could potentially be one of the better defensive teams in the league with Draymond Green still there. They got Pods, Buddy Hield, Moses Moody, obviously Curry. Kuminga's probably going to get traded, but you never know. It feels like we say this every year, and he still ends up with the team. I think this Warriors team is deep. I really like this. I think they're taking a little bit of the workload off of Curry, which, again, is very good, obviously. That's why they brought in Jimmy Butler last season. They were so good with him. I can't ignore that. So I think the Warriors could as well finish much higher than this when it's all said and done. Now, I did mention the Lakers, and I am going to have them here as the 7 seed. I originally had them as the 6 seed, but I changed it right before I hit record. I'm just a little worried with LeBron's health. I know he's. It sounds like he's going to miss, I want to say, the first month of the season. That might be a little bit longer than it is, but I think that's what I heard. That kind of hurts them a little bit, and I just feel like the Warriors, teams like the Warriors, Clippers, they have more depth than the Lakers do. I know the Lakers have some solid depth. I mean, Gabe Vincent, say what you want about him, but they brought in Marcus Smart, Jared Vanderbilt's still there, obviously Dalton Connect. Like, they have some interesting pieces here on the bench, but I think the Warriors just have more depth, and without LeBron, the starting lineup isn't going to be that great. I mean, they're going to have Luka. They're going to have Austin Reeves. They also brought in DeAndre Ayton, which is pretty big. They finally got a center. But, like, backup center, they still got a problem there. Outside of the starting lineup, especially with no LeBron, like, I don't really trust a lot of these guys to do very much besides Dalton Connect. So I think the Lakers are going to be a play-in team, but I could see them finishing 5-6 as well. The 8 seed, I think there's a bit of a tier gap here after the top 7 teams in the West. You can see that based on what I have every team's record at. But I'm going to have the Spurs, actually. I think the Spurs get into the play-in. There's always some new playoff teams, and I think the Spurs are going to be one of them. You're going to have a full season of Wemby, hopefully, if he can stay healthy. And they brought in a lot of guys. They drafted Dylan Harper. They still have De'Aaron Fox is going to be healthy at some point. Stephon Castle just won Rookie of the Year. They still have Devin Vassell. They still have Jeremy Sohan. Harrison Barnes is there. Like, this is a solid team. They brought in Luke Cornett. This is a solid, deep team. And Wembanyama, I think, is probably going to... he's going to win DPOI if he stays healthy. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's up there for MVP voting at this point. He could very well finish top 5. So... we'll see what ends up happening, but I like the Spurs to get into the play-in at the very least. Number 9 is going to be the Mavericks. The Mavericks are a big wild card here because they could very well finish much higher than this, and I could be very stupid for ranking them this low. I actually originally had them at 10. I moved them up to 9. Uh, Obviously, if they had Kyrie, I would probably rank them as a 5 or a 6. But without him for so long, I mean, he's going to come back in what, January, February, so they're going to have some time without him, and I'm just really concerned with the guard play without him. It's going to be guys like D'Angelo Russell, Klay Thompson, Max Christie. Like, I don't know how excited you could be about those guys, especially Klay Thompson and D'Angelo Russell at this point in their career. But they brought in Cooper Flagg. He's going to be, I mean, this defense is going to be ridiculous there. The front court is maybe the best in the league. Cooper Flagg, Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, P.J. Washington, and Daniel Gafford. That is a ridiculous amount of depth. I mean, any of those guys could be in a starting lineup on certain teams in this league. Like, that is ridiculous. And when Kyrie comes back in, this team is going to be scary. I think they're going to start out a little slow, but I think this defense will be able to carry them enough without Kyrie. And I'm acting like their offense is bad. I mean, they still got Anthony Davis. They still got Cooper Flagg, who we'll see how he looks, but he could be very interesting. Like, this is a really good Mavericks team. I'm kind of convincing myself to move him up even more. But I'm going to keep it at this just because the guard play does worry me. But, like I said, when Kyrie comes back in, this team is going to skyrocket up the standings. I think they're going to get hot. And next season, man, I mean, what if the Mavericks go out and get, like, Kawhi? That would be a very Nico Harrison. I mean, he's getting so lucky, it feels like, after trading Luka. Like, what if the Clippers are like, they have to give him up or something? I don't know what Adam Silver's going to decide there, but imagine. Could you imagine that? I'm kind of just throwing things out there, but I think the Mavericks, all in all, are a very solid team. So I have them at the 9 seed here. And then the 10 seed, I'm going to have the Grizzlies. I don't know how I feel about the Grizzlies. They've been kind of banged up the past few seasons. They had that one year where they were the 2 seed, but since then they haven't been much. They brought in Ty Jerome, who was so solid for the Cavs in the regular season, but in the playoffs, he really fizzled out. He wasn't much. I'm excited to see with Jalen Wells. He was a very exciting rookie last season. They have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but they do lose Desmond Bane, which is going to hurt. John Morant's banged up right now. Jaren Jackson Jr., I think, is banged up. Zach Edey's banged up. I think Brandon Clark also hurt. Like, there's a lot of injuries already. It doesn't make me feel great, and the depth just really isn't there. But I think fully healthy, they're still good enough to get in the plan. The 11 seed, I could see them making the plan. It's going to be the Kings. Kind of similar with the Raptors on paper. They have a pretty solid team. Dennis Schroeder comes in. That's going to be interesting. Russell Westbrook also comes in. So they have some interesting guard play. Their starting lineup right now looks weird. Dennis Schroeder, Keon Ellis, Zach LaVine, DeRozan, Sabonis. That's I don't know. That's kind of weird to me, but I guess that's what they're running with. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up trading Malik Monk at some point this season. But you look at all these guys. There's just not a lot of 3-point shooting, and I don't know. I don't see the excitement here with the Kings. I mean, their floor is pretty high just because of the talent, but I don't think their ceiling is very solid. So I have them at the 11 seed, first team out of the plan. Then I have kind of a drop off. I don't really think any of these teams. I mean, maybe they could get in the plan. You never know. Number 12, I'm going to have the Trailblazers. They're an exciting team. They were getting hot at the end of last season. They kind of made a late play-in push. We could for sure see that again. We could see that carry over. They brought in Drew Holiday. Donovan Clingan, I think, is going to keep developing and get better and better. I think he's going to develop into one of the best defensive big men in the league. They still got Robert Williams there off the bench. Yang Hansen, they drafted him very high, so hopefully he turns into something for them. Jeremy Grant, it sounds like, is going to be coming off the bench, which is interesting. I don't know if I mentioned, but Shaedon Sharpe, very athletic, very high ceiling kind of guy. Denny Avdia looked really good in the second half of last season, so that could be interesting. Scoot Henderson, hopefully he blossoms into something. And obviously they brought Dame back. I know he's not going to play this year, but that's interesting. They brought him home. I don't really know what to think about that, but as of right now, I'm going to have the Trailblazers finishing as the 12. The Pelicans at 13. I'm a little excited about the Pelicans. I'm hearing a lot of good things about Zion. He's lost a lot of weight, it looks like, so hopefully he can stay healthy. They brought in Jordan Poole. I don't know how I feel about that. They still have Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. I like both those guys. They brought in Kevon Looney off the bench. They drafted Derek Queen, who could be solid. But I don't know, man. There's not a lot of things to get excited about. They did draft Jeremiah Fears, so maybe he could be a pretty good offensive guy for them. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up trading Jordan Poole, even Zion. If he's good this season, at some point selling high on him. Wouldn't be shocked on that. So I'm going to have the Pelicans finishing pretty low. They just kind of struggle to stay healthy. It's hard for me to get behind them. Look at this. The Suns as the 14. I was surprised to say this, but I mean, if Devin Booker gets hurt at any point in the season, they could win less than 30 games. Look at the starting lineup. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if all these guys get traded. Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Mark Williams, Grayson Allen. Like, all those guys sound like they could get traded at any point. They brought in Kaman Malawak. I think he could be a solid player, but, Oso Ighodaro maybe could be interesting, but I just, there's not much to get excited about. Devin Booker, he's doing the Dame thing where he's staying on the team too long. He's like ruining his career because he wants to be loyal, which I respect, but it gets to a point, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just request a trade. Nobody would blame you. And then at the 15 seed, this is clearly the worst team in the West. It's going to be the Jazz, man. I'm hearing the Lauri Markkanen rumors about him going to Detroit, which could be very interesting. But besides him, there's just not a lot here on this Jazz roster to get excited about. Walker Kessler's still pretty young. Keontae George could be promising. And obviously they drafted Ace Bailey. He looked pretty good in the preseason, but I don't know. They have a lot of young guys who could potentially be interesting. They have Kyle Filipowski, Bryce Sensabaugh, Keontae George I already mentioned. Walter Clayton Jr., they drafted him. Isaiah Collier is projected to be the starting point guard. Obviously Ace Bailey. So they got a lot of young pieces, but this season is obviously not going to be their season. I have them winning 17 games. But now that we broke down all 30 teams in the NBA, we can go ahead and look at our playoff bracket, and this is my seeding at this point. This is my seeding, what I have projected. So we're going to start out in the bottom left with the Western Conference play-in, the Lakers Spurs. As much as I do love Wemby and his promise, I'm going to take LeBron and Luka in a one-game series. I'm going to just trust the veteran experience there. I'm going to trust JJ Redick. He won them 50 games last year, so maybe I'm too low on the Lakers, but it is such a loaded Western Conference. Moving over to the other Western Conference playing game, Mavericks, Grizzlies. At this point in the season, I don't know how healthy the Grizzlies will be. You could say the same thing about Anthony Davis, I guess, with the Mavs. But I'm assuming Kyrie's going to be back. I'm not sure how good he'll be coming off the ACL tear, but I think he'll be good enough to get them this win. Cooper Flagg, I'm very excited about. And like I said, that front court is ridiculous. And honestly, if any team's going to be able to match Wembanyama, I think it's the Mavericks front court with Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, Cooper Flagg, even PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford. That is like a ridiculous group. So I'm going to take the Mavericks here. I'm telling you, if Kyrie Irving comes back in and is solid, this Mavericks team is dangerous. So I'm finishing a little low in the standings, but I'm getting into the playoffs as the 8th seed. I think it's maybe just a year too early for the Spurs. But you never know. You could definitely see them getting in as the 7 or 8 with the Wembanyama. You never know with him. He is just such a game changer. But let's go ahead and move over to the East playing 76ers versus Celtics. At this point, who knows what's going on with the 76ers? And I'm hearing Tatum might be back at this point in the season. So with all that being said, I'm going to take the Celtics. I just, who knows with the 76ers? Who knows if Embiid will be here? I mean, really the whole team. So if Embiid doesn't play, like, the 76ers team is going to be nowhere near the 7 seed. But we'll end up seeing. I haven't ranked, or I guess predicted 7th right now. Raptors Heat. I like the Raptors team on paper, but it doesn't really look like it's going to cooperate very well. I'm just going to trust the Heat to get it done. Now, if they end up trading Bam or trading Tyler Hero, this could definitely switch, but I'm going to trust Eric Spoelstra to get it done. I'll just take the 76ers. I don't think this Heat team's very good. If they're without Embiid, I could definitely see the Heat winning this game, but they're just so hard to predict. So I'll give the 76ers the 8th seed, but I don't feel great about it. Moving back over to the Western Conference, so starting in the first round, Thunder Mavericks. An interesting matchup here. Obviously, I was saying how high I am on the Mavericks when Kyrie does come back in. But unfortunately, they're going to have to play the Thunder, and I don't think they're going to win that series. I'll go Thunder here to move on. Rockets Clippers. This is probably the hardest first round series for me to predict. I was back and forth on this one. I don't love the Clippers' age in the playoffs. You know, you can look at this both ways. You could say, well, they have a lot of experience. All these guys have been in the playoffs before. But then again, you could also look at it, well, how healthy are they going to be? How much juice are they going to have? I think first round they'll have enough to get past the Rockets, but I don't know how good I feel about them making a deep run just because how much will their bodies be able to take because they are such an old team. But the depth, I think, will be enough to get over the Rockets. If the Rockets had Fred VanVleet, I'd probably take him in this one. Now, we'll see what happens with Kawhi. This prediction could definitely come back to bite me, but we're going to see a Thunder Clippers, which a lot of people thought would be that second round series in the West last season, so we're going to see it this year. I'm predicting I'll take the Clippers to move on. Timberwolves Warriors. The Timberwolves have made the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row. I do love what the Warriors have done, but I think the Timberwolves are too much at this point. I think Anthony Edwards and that defense is just the right combo. If Rob Dillingham or Terrence Shannon Jr. can blossom into that kind of everyday point guard, I don't know if they will, but if they can take some work off of Mike Conley because he is getting up there in age, I think they'll be enough. I just think they're going to have enough more energy than the Warriors because the Warriors, I want to say, have the oldest starting lineup in the league. But Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, you never want to run into any of those guys in the playoffs, and they have so many shooters around them as well. So the Warriors could for sure go on a run this season. I could see it. I really like their team, but I'm going to take the Timberwolves. Nuggets, Lakers, I feel like we always see this matchup, and it's always ending the same way. I'm going to take the Nuggets. I don't see them losing in the first round with the amount of depth they have, and even without it, they just don't lose this early in the playoffs. Cavs, 76ers. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Cavs pretty easily here. Like I've said, so many question marks with the 76ers, I can't really pick them to go that far into the playoffs. Hawks, Pistons, this is a tough one to predict for me. Both these teams I'm expecting to be better this season than last season. I'm going to go with the Hawks. I'm just going to trust Trae Young. We've seen him go to the Eastern Conference Finals before. We have not seen Cade Cunningham lead his team to do that yet. And I'm interested to see what they do with Jaden Ivey's whole contract situation. Will Porzingis stay healthy for the whole season? That's going to be a question. We haven't seen him do that really his whole career. But I like the depth they have. And I like the pieces they have to get out of this first round. But I don't know how far they will end up making it if Porzingis is not available. Magic Bucks. Obviously, we don't know what's going on with Giannis. We don't know if he'll be there at this point. If he is, it's going to be a very fun series. But I think the Magic will have enough defensively to get it done. The question is, will they just be an above-average offense? I honestly think they might. They're going to have a lot better injury luck, hopefully, knock on wood, than they did last season. Because last season it was just abysmal, the amount of injuries they had. And they were still a 7 seed. I'm very high on this Magic team. I think they'll get out of the first round. Knicks, Celtics, this is going to be fun if Tatum's back. But honestly, I don't know how good Tatum will be coming off that, what was it, Achilles tear? I don't know how good he'll be coming off of that, and I don't know even if he'll be playing. So I'm just going to take the Knicks. As of right now, I think they're the safer option. And I don't know if the Celtics, if there's any team to compete with the Knicks, I guess offensively, it's the Celtics just because they shoot so many threes. But I don't know. I'm going to trust this. I'm going to trust Mike Brown. I think he's a really good coach. I like that hire. So hopefully the Knicks, don't have to play Tatum in the series. But even if it is Tatum, even if he is healthy for this, I don't know if he'll be 100%. I don't even know, what percent he'll be at. Thunder Clippers, this would be very fun, experience versus the new kids on the block, I guess, because the Thunder won the championship last year, but it's hard for me to pick against the Thunder, right? They're just so good. So I'm going to take the Thunder pretty easily to the Western Conference Finals. I honestly think the only team that can beat them this year is the Nuggets. Speaking of the Nuggets, they're going to be playing the Timberwolves right here. Can the Timberwolves get to 3 Western Conference Finals in a row? I wouldn't be shocked if they did. But I think this is the Nuggets season to get back to competing for a title. They've always been competing for a title with Jokic, but this is a legitimate roster around him. And I just love their depth. So I'm going to take Denver to the Western Conference Finals. Cavs, Hawks. I worry about Porzingis' health, man. I really do. I think the Cavs and Donovan Mitchell finally get to a conference finals. I just think this offense is too good, man. They could arguably be the best offense in the league when it's all said and done this season. And I just think, if Porzingis isn't in this series, because I'm assuming he'll get injured at some point. I just don't think the Hawks have enough to compete with the Cavs offense. Magic Knicks could be interesting. It's going to be offense versus defense, but I'm going to trust the Knicks to get it done. I just think, when it comes down to it, I don't think the Magic have the guys to keep up with the Knicks offense yet. Maybe in the future, maybe Desmond Bane coming in helps them a lot. Obviously, Paolo and Franz both going to be healthy, hopefully, this season. They were both so good before they got injured. But I'm going to take the Knicks to move on. So a little boring. I've 1-2 and 1-2, but I just think these are the four best teams. I think these are the teams. I would say these are the four. I don't know if I'd say these are the four best teams. Actually, no. I would say these are the four best teams. Now, the next couple are probably all in the West. I'd probably go Timberwolves, Rockets, Clippers, Warriors, maybe even Lakers before I even mention the Magic. But then again, you never know what the season's going to hold. But these are, I would say, the legitimate four title contenders. I feel like it's kind of a short list this year, but these are the teams I could honestly see winning it all. Thunder Nuggets, man. Some may say this is the championship game. I think these are probably the two best teams in the league. I'm going to take the Thunder. I don't feel great about it. I really think the Nuggets might get them this year. I'm going to take the Thunder. I took the Thunder to win it all last season in the preseason, and they did. So I'm going to trust them. I think they're going to have a top 5 offense and defense. I just think they have so much depth, so much on both sides of the ball, and we saw them do it last year. It pains me to say it. I think the Thunder get to the championship yet again and beat the Nuggets. But if there's any team to do it, the Nuggets took them to 7 games last year in the semifinals without this deep of a roster, with Aaron Gordon barely even, being able to move. Like, they didn't have anyone, and they almost won that series. So the Nuggets could very well do it. But I just think the Thunder are too elite, and I think they might be better. Like, if they stay healthy, they're going to be better this season than last season. So I'm going to take the Thunder, but that is so tough. That's probably the hardest series to predict of any series in the playoffs. Cavs Knicks, this is another very tough one. Probably 2 top 5 offenses going head-to-head here. I'm actually going to go with the Knicks, though. I think the Knicks win. I don't know if I trust the Cavs to break through. I have them breaking through to the conference finals. Do I have them enough trust to have them say they break through to the NBA finals? I don't know about that. So I'm going to take the Knicks here to get it done. Move to the finals. Could you imagine Madison Square Garden in the finals? That would be electric. And I think they have a legitimate chance to do so. But honestly, I think the champ is probably either the Thunder or the Nuggets. I'm going to say it's going to be the Thunder. Obviously, I have the Thunder beating the Nuggets, so I'm going to take the Thunder to win it all again. But I don't feel great about it, man. I think this could be the year where the Nuggets get back and win Jokic's second ring. I really could see that. But I'm going to say the Thunder win back-to-back. But, man, that is very tough there in the Western Conference. I don't love it, but I'm going Thunder over the Knicks in the NBA Finals. But this is going to be fun to revisit, by the end of the NBA season. Let me know in the comments, what are your sleeper teams? Who do you have, winning all the awards? Who do you have in your NBA Finals? What are all your predictions? Do you agree? What do you disagree? I'd love to talk and debate down there. But that is going to do it. Thank you so much for watching. I know it was a long one, but we haven't talked NBA in a long time, so we had to really dive deep into all these teams. And we're going to be back to posting NBA videos every week, so you can stay tuned for that. Obviously, college football and NFL is going to continue every week. College basketball is going to be, we're going to start videos later this week, so that's going to be very exciting, and that's obviously going to be a weekly thing as well. And then the MLB, the ALCS, Game 7's tonight. World Series starts in, very few days. MLB's getting close, so we're going to have a video previewing the World Series for the MLB as well. But that is going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new, subscribe, like this video, all that good stuff. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys tomorrow with another college football top 25 rankings video.